I would like to welcome everyone to the December 2nd, 2024 Emmaus Borough Council meeting. We'll call the meeting to order here at 6 o'clock. Please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
I'm going to apologize ahead of time for the temperature in here. We have some service contractors coming out tomorrow to work on it. I believe said 58 over there. Uh,
58.5.
58.5. We're warming up. All right. First on the agenda is personal appeals part 1. If anyone has a personal appeal, now is your time to come up. Your appeal. Anybody online? Hearing none. Does anyone have a community minute to bring forward? Roy?
I just wanted to, Saturday, Shanna and myself were able to attend the opening of a new business, Board to Death Games in downtown. And it was a nice turnout and welcomed them to the borough. So that's all I had. Thank you.
Oh, thank you, Roy. Anyone else? Madam Mayor?
This Saturday is Old Fashioned Christmas on the Triangle from 4 to 7. So come on out. We'll light the Christmas tree probably between 6 and 6:30, somewhere around there. So come on out, have some fun, maybe see some reindeer this year.
No camel?
No camel.
I was waiting for it. I'm not paying for
I didn't reach out to the solicitor this year.
Rather than paying for an elephant next year or something.
Anyone else with a community minute? Hearing none. We have no special presentations tonight. Would someone like to make a motion to accept the November 18th council meeting minutes?
So moved.
Mr. Labenberg, seconded by Ms. Baumgardner. Is there any discussion? Corrections, additions? Hearing none. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Oppose? 7 ayes.
Abstain.
What?
I'm abstaining.
Oh, you're abstaining?
Yeah, I wasn't here for it. So
Okay. We have one abstain. Roy?
you still don't have to fill out.
Yeah, you still gotta fill out a sheet.
All right. Well, I don't
I'll-
have a sheet.
I'll get you on.
Yeah.
We have no decisions on bids. Under communications, Jason Kleckner is retiring. Jake Kleckner has worked for the borough for well over 30 years. Actually, it's 36 years. He's worked for the borough, and he will be retiring on January 6th. He's worked in a lot of the departments in the public works, and most recently he's been, keeping our parks and the pool and all that kind of stuff together. So if anyone sees Jay, make sure you thank him for his last 36 years. That's a long time working somewhere.
Is he still part of the park police? Is he
No.
gonna
No.
stay with that?
No.
Okay.
The next is a William Kennedy request cost of living adjustment. Jen Ad?
Budget and finance.
Budget and Finance. So that'll go over to the Budget and Finance Committee. We have a volunteer application for Greg Lehman for the Arts Commission. That will go over to the next CRD meeting. And the next, we received a letter from Councilman Chris Hohenscheid that he will be resigning from council here at the end of the month. Chris, would you like to say anything?
Sure. Thank you, Mr. President. This was an extremely difficult decision. It's a decision that my family and I came to weeks ago, but I didn't want it to be a distraction during the budget process. I was explaining to Shane, for obvious reasons, I feel invested in a lot of great things that we have coming up in the borough and currently going on. But the reality is that in order for me to dedicate the time that I need to my son, who will be graduating in the blink of an eye, I know that I can't give 100%, and I need to be able to give 100%, and I just can't do it. The kind of the tipping point for me was several weeks ago when I was having a conversation with my family, and just as I did when I decided to run for council, I was talking to my son, and I, said, "What are your thoughts?" And he said, "Well, Dad, first, I'll say what you always say to me is if you love what you're doing, then do it. But I do also feel that we don't have as much time. So that kind of tipped the scales for me. So as much as I love serving with all of you, even through the difficult budget process and the disagreements, I loved going through that process with all of you and serving the people of the borough. So I just want to say thank you to all of you, and I will still be fully in through the end of this year. So thank you all for your understanding and kind words. I appreciate it.
No, thank you, Chris. And it's definitely been a pleasure. Almost this whole year we've made a lot of decisions together with, the best information that we had possible. And I thank you for that very much.
Thank you.
Borough engineers report, we have none. Solicitors report.
No report. Progress.
Thank you. Unfinished business part 1, we have none. And then under new business, we have ordinance 1274. It's an ordinance amending chapter 26, sections 105 and 106 of the codified ordinances dealing with the water rate schedule and billing and collection procedures for the borough of Emmaus. This is our first reading for this, and our next reading will be on December 16th. Would someone like to make a motion to approve? Motion by Mr. Anders. Is there a second? Seconded by Ms. Watt. Is there any discussion? This is a roll call vote. Councilwoman Watt,
Aye.
Councilman Anders,
Aye.
Councilman Labenberg,
Aye.
Councilman Hunshide,
Aye.
Councilman Brown,
Aye.
Councilwoman Baumgartner,
Aye.
Councilman Balliet, aye. Next, under new business is ordinance 1275, an ordinance amending chapter 18, sewer and sewage disposal rates of the Code of Ordinance of the Borough of Emmaus for the fiscal year 2025. This is also the first reading. Our second reading will be on December 16th. Would someone like to make a motion to approve ordinance 1275? Motion by Mr. Honshad. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Ms. Baumgartner. Is there any discussion? Hearing none, this is also a roll call vote. Councilwoman Watt,
Aye.
Councilman Anders,
Aye.
Councilman Labenberg,
Aye.
Councilman Honshad,
Aye.
Councilman Brown,
Aye.
Councilwoman Baumgartner,
Aye.
Councilman Balliet, aye. Next up is ordinance 1276, an ordinance levying taxes for the fiscal year 2025 for the Borough of Emmaus at a rate of 10.4455 mils pursuant to section 1310 of the Borough Code of the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania, and revenue neutral levy based on the 2013 Lehigh County tax reassessment split between the general fund tax of 8.1204 mils and a fire fund tax of 1.8461 mils, a special roads fund tax of 0.32 mils, and a streetlight fund tax of 0.159 mils. This is also the first reading. The second reading will be in our December 16th meeting. Would someone like to make a motion to approve ordinance 1276?
So moved.
Mr. Labenberg, is there a second? Ms. Watt? Any discussion? This is also a roll call. Mr. Honshad?
So, yeah, before the vote, I just wanted to kind of explain my thought process through this. And as I mentioned earlier, I appreciate the debate process. We spent a lot of hours together over the last month or so. And while I understand that no one wants a tax increase, and no one certainly wants a tax increase as large as this one is going to be. My thought process on this vote is there are a lot of costs that we have no control over, and I don't want to see other things that we do have control over suffer because of that. I think, and I've said this during the budget workshops, I think people living in Emmaus know that everything comes with a cost. You get what you pay for, and there are a few things in this budget that I think we're losing out on that are extremely difficult for me, and I just wanted to kind of express kind of where I am with the process before the vote. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you. Anyone else have, Mr. Anders?
I actually wanted to take the time to acknowledge Mr. Pepe for his time and efforts and energy. This was not an easy process. It's a process that started back in June, July-ish, when he meets with the department managers, and all of our department managers spent the hours here with us during the tedious line by line review of the proposed budget. So they also deserve, thank you for being here, as well as Christine from downstairs. Like I said, a lot of energy, time. Our fellow council here, everyone here was here since October, twice a week, going through line by line item, trying to come up with what we perceive as the best that we could do for the residents. So that's all I wanted to note. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Brown?
Yeah, I just got a clarification question for you, Mr. President. During our budget process, we withdrew some funding for the police department of 53,000. Is that still in this ordinance, or did we reduce the millage rate? I can't recall. That's why I'm. Or did we?
You did not vote
There was
the,
no
you did not vote to reduce the millage rate, so we show that as leftover.
Oh, okay. With that said, just recently for the police department, they were able to find a candidate. Will they still be able to find a candidate as well coming up in 2025? And if they do so, can they pull that money from somewhere?
I would say I mean, I don't know if you want to answer, if you want me to.
Well,
take
yeah,
it.
so in speaking with
Yeah.
the chief of police, if they hold off until the September hiring process and you as a borough council votes to do the September hiring process,
Yep.
that means the individual won't even start here until January of 26. Rather than you pursuing it in February, it would be September for 2026 is what they would do. So they would miss, instead of the February hiring process, it would be the September hiring process instead. And it wouldn't be in your 2025 budget.
But there is flexibility there
There is.
if
Yeah.
something would occur
There
in
is.
2025.
Yep.
Is that correct to say?
Yeah.
Yes.
All right, thank you.
Any other questions or comments? This is also a roll call vote. Councilwoman Watt,
Aye.
Councilman Anders,
Aye.
Councilman Lavenberg,
Aye.
Councilman Hunshide,
No?
Councilman Brown,
Aye.
Councilwoman Baumgartner,
Aye.
Councilman Balliet, aye. Unfinished business part 2, we have none. Does anyone have any items not on the agenda that they'd like to bring forward? Madam Mayor's report.
I have no report this evening. Progress.
Thank you. Uh, Committee reports, Public Works, Mr. Anders.
Thank you, Mr. President. Nothing for official action. Our next meeting is Monday, December 9th at 4:45. And with that, I'll report progress.
Thank you. Health, Sanitation, and Codes, Mr. Brown.
Thank you, Mr. President. Mr. Solicitor, do we have Resolution 2024-34 available for tonight?
It's in your iPad.
Yeah, I understand.
It's
There
the
was
last attachment.
the last one?
Yeah.
Yes, we do.
All right, thank you, Mr. Solicitor. We have a resolution approving the Yopes lot line adjustment of 423, 435, and 437 South Fifth Street. The Yopes family is in attendance tonight. Mr. Solicitor, can you please explain
Sure.
the resolution?
Sure. So at the Planning Commission meeting on November 14th, it was technically a major subdivision, but it really is just a reallocation of lot lines with respect to 3 parcels located at 423, 435, and 437 South Fifth Street. We have prepared a resolution along the lines of what was requested by the Yobst family, along with what was done at the Planning Commission on November 14th. There are several waiver requests, all of which are supported by our engineer and our special engineer from Hanover Engineering and Ott Consulting. I believe Mr. Yobst has withdrawn 3 of the waiver requests solely because they were not within the borough's authority to grant them, because they were DEP requests and a PennDOT request, so we didn't have the authority to grant them. But the other ones at the Planning Commission meeting, they were recommended. Overall, it's a relatively simple project. There's no construction, there's no need for security, there's no need for any of those items, simply because this is basically map changes.
Thank you, Mr. Solicitor. Hearing that, I would like to propose a motion for Resolution 2024-34, resolution approving the revised preliminary final lot line adjustment plan with respect to the major subdivision proposed by Theodore W. and Beth A. W. Yobst, David S. Yobst, and Winfield Yobst for the property located at 413, 435, 437 South Fifth Street in MASPA.
There's a motion by Mr. Brown. Is there a second?
Second.
Seconded by Mr. Labenberg. Any further discussion?
Yeah, Jason,
Mhm.
does the county do a reassessment then with the realigned property lines, or do they not touch it?
That's a good question, and the answer is they might. And I assume Mr. Yobst is aware of that, but that is unrelated to the borough.
Okay.
The
I was
county
just curious.
The county does make that determination at the assessment office. So certain parcels may get taxed more, certain less, based on the adjustment.
Thank you.
You can acknowledge him if you want to.
Okay, yeah. Approach.
Just one item of clarity. Mr. Brown actually read the addresses correctly in the resolution, the way it's listed on the agenda. I think he had 423. It is actually 413.
The
But
resolution
just for
reflects
clarity.
Yeah, the
413.
resolution.
Okay,
Sorry about that.
thank you.
And
you.
for once, I would like to point out that the solicitor did not make that error. It was your borough manager.
The solicitor would have gotten me the damn resolution, and
You mean when I had pneumonia over the weekend?
I'm good with that.
Oh, geez, I didn't know that.
Make sure the minutes reflect it back and forth.
Get back.
Yeah.
I don't want to tell him that he's had it for 3 weeks.
Yeah.
All right. Any other discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? 7 ayes. Thank you.
See you at the game.
Just a heads up, you guys will, the acceptance of conditions, we'll email that over to you tomorrow. Yep.
Mr. Solicitor, has Mr. Script from the paving company applied for anything for Anytime Fitness?
Not that I'm aware
All
of.
right, hearing that, then we, as of right now, our next meeting is December 17th at 4:45, but if there's nothing on the agenda, it will be canceled. Roger.
Yeah, we've reached out to him. Our department has reached out to him.
I think from the last meeting, we were sharing that because it'll probably roll into next year.
Yeah, and
I was just curious.
so I think when they do put in for it, we'll have to have a discussion with the solicitor as to whether or not that needs to go to the planning commission too, as well. So it may not just be a borough council discussion. It might have to go to planning as well.
And that was when that was initially raised, that was my concern, that it may actually require planning commission action.
So it might be a more involved process than just a council. Vote.
But yeah, I mean, I didn't research it because I didn't want to spend the money until we were sure we got something in from them. So, but my instinct is that probably requires both also planning commission approval, but I don't know
Sure.
that for sure.
Well, when it comes through, then we'll talk
Yeah,
about it.
but-
Then last thing, the zoning ordinance is coming forth probably hopefully by no later than February. Maybe in January, we'll see it.
It's going to be voted on at this next planning commission meeting,
Yep.
because I believe the concerns of certain members of the planning commission are being addressed
They were
because
resolved.
they were non-physical changes to the ordinance itself. They were. idealistic changes he wanted.
Mr. President, that's all I have for tonight.
Thank you. Parks and Recreation, Mr. Hunshide?
The committee notes are attached from our last meeting. Next meeting is Thursday, December 19th at 4:45. Progress.
I have one question with regard to noise policy for, it said that on the second warning, the entire party may be ejected from the pavilion and shall forfeit all payments. And I just wanted to know, since we're talking, before that, we're talking about the deposit, would that include the deposit? Okay.
Well, that was so that was the intention of the committee. And
The way it was worded, it didn't really make it clear. That's all. I agree with it. That's all.
I think one of our goals for next year is have council adopt the entire pavilion rental policy as kind of an umbrella, because there's a lot of things that we've discussed at committee that we just figured we'd just do one big umbrella. This is the rules and regulations for pavilion rentals, including the fee, including the the deposit piece, the noise piece, all that stuff, and that's part of the contract that they sign when they rent the pavilion. And when I say for next year, I mean like sooner than next year, because they're going to start renting for next year. But as far as what will be in place before they're allowed to rent the pavilion for 25, those rules would need to be in place.
And so actually, before I wrap things up, should we put that fishing derby thing to full council tonight?
I don't think we can now.
Okay,
Yeah.
It's not on the agenda. I don't know that you can.
okay.
I mean, unless somebody from the public were to raise it, which is one of the exceptions of the Sunshine Act,
We can
there's
do
still
it.
a case out there that says you can't amend your agenda, even though that's not the way the statute reads. So you
There
can't
won't
vote
be
on
any
it.
fishing derbies in the next 2 weeks anyway, so.
Yeah, unless it's ice.
Ice fishing.
I'm glad I got that joke out before the other 4 people did.
But Chris, we can put that on the council agenda for the 16th if you want to.
Okay.
I mean, we can do that. I mean, you guys, I think you firmed that up at your committee meeting. So
Yeah.
yeah, we were just looking at kind of doing the whole umbrella of
Oh, that
all these
part
things
of it.
at one
Okay,
time. But
gotcha.
we can put that on the agenda.
Okay.
I mean, it's kind of its own item anyway.
All right.
Good. Public Safety, Ms. Baumgartner.
Thank you, Mr. President. We have no items for official action. We have not met since our last council meeting. Our next Public Safety Committee meeting will be Wednesday, December 11th at 9 a.m. Report progress.
Thank you. General Administration, Mr. Liebenberg.
Thank you. We interviewed 4 highly qualified candidates for the Fire Department Administration Assistant position. And we are very excited to bring forward Brianna Falco as a full-timer. And has she had her background information,
Yeah,
or is it
everything's-
contingent upon that?
Everything's clear. Yep.
So this is officially to hire her. And so I make a motion that we hire Brianna Falco.
Motion by Mr. Liebenberg. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Ms. Watt. Any discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed?
We have a meeting this Wednesday at 9 a.m. Do we have anything on the agenda, Shane?
I'll take a look.
Okay.
I think I have another meeting as well.
I know as far as budget and finance, like we have the pension request that we just got, but yeah. I mean, we can do Zoom for that, right? So progress.
Thank you. Budget and Finance. Attached is our significant revenue and expenses for the month of November. Also attached is the budget performance for November. The only thing left on our agenda for official action, as we took care of the other items in the beginning, is Resolution 24-30, and that is the bill list as follows. Bill list is $119,335.85. It's payroll 24 of $200,856.99. payroll taxes of $64,905.92 for a grand total of $385,098.76. Done the 2nd of December. Is there a motion? Motion by Mr. Labenberg. Is there a second?
Second.
Ms. Watt, any discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Oppose? Our next meeting is this Wednesday at
You have your first reading of the budget you've got to do.
which one?
Budget.
Proposed budget.
Says right there.
Oh,
It's kind of the most important thing you could possibly do today.
sorry.
It's just, it's a vote to advertise the budget. That's all it is.
I thought that was
No, that was the
No.
tax ordinance. You should get the vote to advertise the budget.
all right.
It has to be done 20 days before it's adopted.
20.
And
Oh, yeah, 10 in this.
10
case.
days.
It's usually.
Would anyone like to make a motion to advertise the 2025 proposed budget? Motion by Mr. Labenberg. Is there a second? Second by Ms. Watt. Is there any discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed?
No.
6-1. Our next meeting is Wednesday, December 4th at 11 a.m. We're gonna do that one on Zoom.
Sure.
Yeah, that'll definitely be on Zoom. With that, I'll report progress unless anyone has any questions. Community Relations Planning and Development, Ms. Watt.
We have not met for quite some time, but our next meeting will be Tuesday, December 3rd at 5 p.m. by Zoom only. Progress.
Thank you. We have nothing from our various boards or commissions. Personal Appeals Part 2. Anyone in the audience like to make an appeal? Any of our online guests?
Hold on.
Yep. Hearing none. Borough Managers Report.
Yeah, I just have, I have one item, for you. Joshua Pierce, who's also a volunteer firefighter, we've hired as an EMT, in the ambulance department. So I need to make that announcement. The other thing I will tell you is, I was saying to Mr. Hohenscheid today, it was definitely a difficult budget process. I mean, we all know that. You guys, have had to make a lot of hard decisions. But one thing that I appreciate, and you can't appreciate it unless you've come from another municipality where they hollered and screamed at each other, on simple votes, or swore at each other or took things personally, no matter what the differences were. What I appreciate is your level of professionalism in every single debate that you had. That's important. That's important for your management staff, the team members downstairs and out on the road, knowing that you're looking at it from a professional point of view. No matter what your votes are, that level of professionalism is appreciated among elected officials because it shows that you do care, and no matter what the differences are between you and your votes, you're all working towards the same goal, and that's to make the community a better place. So, no matter how you vote on these issues, the way that you've carried yourself throughout the process is much appreciated from me, from our staff, and I know from each other, because one thing that you haven't done is you haven't gotten personal with each other, no matter how difficult those discussions have been. And they've been difficult, right? This has been, as I've said repeatedly, this is the most difficult budget process I've been through in my career. But you've maintained that same demeanor throughout, and we certainly appreciate it because no matter how difficult it's been, it's definitely been easier in knowing that you're looking at it from a professional standpoint and not taking every single thing we're doing personally. And so when you look at the budget and you look at the decisions that you made from those perspectives, I'm hoping that it makes your decision making a little easier for you to cope with, to deal with, and to live with, no matter what your votes are throughout the process. So thank you for that throughout this entire process, and and we'll move forward from here. So if you have any questions, please feel free to ask. Otherwise, I'll report progress.
Thank you. Under President's business, I think one of the solicitors here, I'll have him run through the process of what it would look like to appoint and get someone else in here for council with our vacant seat.
Shane's been through this before, but the answer is you'll probably, I assume your process was you'll interview people who have accepted applications and then you have a vote on it. Unless you do it differently.
Yeah, so 30 days.
30
right?
days.
Yeah, it's 30 days
from
under the
December
statute,
31st.
but that's
Yeah.
correct. 30 days.
So, I mean,
but I don't know what your actual process is. 'Cause
yeah,
we've never been
so
through this. with
typically what we've done in the past was we'd put an ad out in East Penn Press. And to be honest with you, we don't even need to do that because it'll be on the front page of the East Penn Press. But we typically put an ad out in the East Penn Press. We'll get applicants. I think the last time we had pretty close to 2 vacancies at one time. And I think we had like 12 applicants, and council interviewed every single one of them. Council has a choice. You can interview everybody, you can interview nobody, you could advertise, you don't have to advertise. But our process has been in the past that we've advertised in the East Penn Press, and council has interviewed in a public meeting each one of the candidates. Now, if you get 45 candidates, you're gonna want to have a different conversation about how you're gonna do that. I don't think you want to sit through necessarily 45 45 interviews, but that will be up to you. But historically, what I've seen you do is you've interviewed everyone that came through. I think you gave them like a certain amount of time to kind of give their speech, and then you guys had kind of your set questions that each of you would ask, and then you would make a decision from there. So I'm assuming I'm going to just be advertising this probably sooner than later, so you can get that process started. So that way, when Chris unfortunately vacates his seat on December 31st, maybe hopefully for your January meeting, your first meeting in January, maybe you can have that seat filled, or at least the second meeting in January, you could have that seat filled. What you don't necessarily want to do is let it go past that 30 days and go to the vacancy officer, and then you can't figure it out. Then it goes to Lehigh County Court, right? You want to get that resolved in that 30-day time period.
Correct. The statute is silent on the process other than the deadline that you have to do it within 30 days of the date of the resignation.
Anyone have any other questions on the process or anything?
Just, I have one though. Since next year is an off-cycle election year, does that affect it by anything?
I believe Mr. Hohenscheid's seat was last year.
Correct.
So if that's the case, then that vacancy will be filled until the end of that cycle.
Until that cycle. That's what I
Yep.
thought, but just wanted to check. Thank you.
All right, that's it. There's no executive session tonight. Is there a motion for adjournment?
So moved.
Councilwoman Baumgartner, seconded by Mr. Hunshide. Any discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Oppose?
Take the 2 tickets out of there and then return.
7 ayes. Meeting adjourned at 6:34.